Okay, hello and welcome to our fifth snapshot webinar with the Regional Plan 2045 update. Today's presentation is about our regional economy. And with us today to present is Dave Wessel, Metro Plan's Planning Manager. I'm Melissa Shaw, standing in for Sarah Dector. I'm with the county, and Sarah is the Comprehensive Planning Manager with the city. Dave, do you want to go to the next slide?
I can try. Oh, am I not?
I think you should be in present mode. So just hit your down arrow.
And I'm doing that and nothing is happening. I'm going to stop sharing and start sharing again.
All right. There you go. All right. Well, thanks, Karen, for joining us. And also with us today is Jordan Hollinger. He is the Associate Planner with the City of Flagstaff, also another key staff person with the Regional Plan 2045 update. So as those of you have been following these series, we are having these snapshot presentations most Mondays at noon, barring some holidays. There is a link there where you can register to receive updates to these. And these are intended to be 15-minute, very condensed presentations about specific topic matters. Oops, go back. Thank you. With a 15-minute question and answer session. So the intent of these really is to give attendees a in-depth overview of a very specific topic that we will be covering, and that will help build the information base for the regional plan update. These will be posted on the city's YouTube channel, and remember that these are drafts. So we're welcoming comments on the presentation and on the supporting papers that will be published online in the near future as well. And you can see in the last bullet what the next sessions will be. So on November 1st, it will be a discussion on population demographics. On November 8th, Transportation 101, and on the 15th, Transportation 201. So again, these are in detail dives into important topics that will build the foundation for this next regional plan update. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave Wessel, Metro Plan's Planning Manager, to talk about our regional economy.
Thank you, Melissa. In today's presentation, we're going to talk at a fairly high level about the total activity and jobs and wages within the region. We're going to look at the different sectors, the industries in the economic ecosystem, and then talk about trends in jobs and wages. The data is largely at the county level in terms of what's available through typical sources. I am able to examine some city data, and I'll try to point that out when we get to it. A couple points about the regional plan and the economy. The regional plan really sets the policy for land use, transportation, and other elements that are critical to the economy. The regional plan will respond to trends in employment or desired employment outcomes. So if we see things changing in the hospitality or manufacturing sectors, for instance, or if we want things to change in various sectors, the regional plan will set direction for the inputs to those to try to influence it. So the regional plan does not directly set economic policy. That's really done through a variety of other means. So at a very high level, here we see total employment in 2014 and 2019. And this is at the county level, what's called the Flagstaff City Metropolitan Statistical Area, so the MSA. And you can see the total employment has gone up by about 2,000 from 57 to 59,000, and from 2014 to 2019. And really the biggest sectors contributing to that growth, as you can see here, are hospitality and education and health are both growing fairly strongly. Retail trade is contracting a bit and manufacturing, one of those primary or basic industries, is holding steady. Another way to look at that is this rather complicated diagram. 2019 being on the top and 2014 being on the bottom. You can see On the left, where those colleges, elementary school, medical, or hospitals is starting to expand. It's a little bit bigger than on the top than it is on the bottom. Similarly, with that block on arts and entertainment, you see restaurant and food services, travel or accommodation being fairly large. And then you can see, like in construction, a little bit of contraction there. If you were able to dig in a little bit deeper, and some of these are pretty small, you can see metal equipment supplied to manufacturing, such as Gore, has actually expanded from 3.1% up to 3.6%. Again, another way to slice this up, 2014 being on the left, 2019 being on the right, you can see kind of the distribution of these larger sectors of the economy. And I have highlighted in green arts and hospitality and education. You can see where it's grown arts and hospitality from 19 to 21% of the economy, and education and health from 29 to 32%. And you can see that manufacturing has held steady, and then retail again shrinking a bit. If we were to look at this over a longer period of time in a goods producing perspective, you can see we've gone up from 8% to 9% of the economy from 2010 to 2019. Generally, that's perceived as good. Those goods producing or that kind of primary basic industry where those wages, we're shipping things out of the region and bringing money into the region. So that's positive. And then depending on your perspective, we can see that the private sector is starting to gain a percentage of our primary service providing economy, going from 59 up to 61%, as the government or public side is shrinking from 32 to 29%. As we look at this compared to the state, you can see that we are more dependent on those two primary sectors, education and health, or most predominant sectors, education, health, and arts and hospitality, than is the state as the whole. And generally, when you look at, say, Arizona or the United States, you assume that these are a more diverse and stable economy with a holistic and self-contained. And so this emphasis on one area relative to our region is something to examine, make sure that we're as stable as we can, as we'd like to be. And then just for information, you can see the city as a percent of overall county employment in these various sectors. And you can see that we're very strong in education and health at the city level. That's going to be largely due to the presence of Northern Arizona University, NAU, within our region. But then arts and hospitality, we're about 50-50. And you can see that's kind of commensurate with the population. And if you look at Williams and Page and other places within the county, that those are tourism-driven economies. And so that distribution of employment makes some sense. So what are the most common jobs within the region, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the Census Bureau? Well, you can see at the top here on the right, cooks, post-secondary teachers, again, NAU, waiters and waitresses. So you can really see that those two predominant sectors being represented in those most common jobs. As we talk about wages, that'll come into play. When we look at more specialized pieces of the economy where we have, as a region, more than places like Arizona, the country, on a percentage basis, forest and conservation workers. We're in the middle of a national forest, so that makes sense. Tour and travel guides. Again, a lot of tourist destinations here requiring this kind of services. A little more unique are the locomotive engineers and boilermakers. And if you think about, again, this is at the county level, so you have or had the generating station up in around Page. You had the railroad tourist industry over in Williams. It may make this skewed, and it'll be interesting to see how that changes as we get new numbers coming as a result of some of the closure of these things. If we look at overall employment, this is 2019. You can see that The city and the county are at the same 7.6% rate, not quite coming out of the COVID recession as strong as the state, but doing fairly well. And if you look at the county here, all the way from 1992 to the present, you can see how we've climbed out of a couple of recessions. And you can see this really sharp spike of unemployment due to COVID and how we're coming out of that rather rapidly, much more so than we have in previous recessions. So I think that's a good sign for the local economy. But is that recovery happening equally? Is it being distributed across race as evenly as we'd like? Do not have that specific data at this geographic level, but at a national level, this is a report from the Center for American Progress. We see that the Black unemployment rate is currently double the white employment rate. And that article goes on to say that that's fairly standard, whether we're in recession or recovery. And so there may be some equity issues that need to be addressed and deserve further exploration. When we look at wages, you can see kind of the high and the low here on the table on the left for 2019. And you can see how FIRE, which is the finance, insurance, and real estate sector, has really the highest wages, and arts and hospitality have near the bottom in terms of average wage per employee. And as we look at the table on the right, and I wish I had shown these as a percent by sector in terms of contribution, we see that arts and hospitality is one of the largest sectors contributing to the local economy. So, there's value in that. Some people define that as a basic sector because people are coming from outside the region in and spending money. That said, from a wage perspective, this is a growing sector and could pose some challenges going forward. And as we look at our highest paid sectors of the economy, physicians, pharmacists, computer information systems, lawyers, and judges, looking at the diversity of our economy and the ability to live within the region, all of these will play a part. Again, similarly at the county level, looking at wages by most common jobs, we can see some separation, if you will, between whites in the county versus some other sectors. You can see, or other races. You can see some distinction or separation, as I said, in the wages earned. And so equity, which is a growing concern for the regional plan, along with climate change and others, something we'll want to explore. That's illustrated in this graph, comparing wages at the county level compared to the United States. You can see at the far left, at the low end of the wage scale, there's a great diversity in terms of the percentage of the population earning less than 10,000. And that disparity continues or is evident all the way up to those earning 40 to 50,000. And then, the corollary to that, the county at the higher income levels earning quite often less than those at the United States level, especially there at the higher end of the income bracket. That said, the median household income is climbing. It's climbing commensurate with that of the state. We're at our overall median income is not as high as the United States, which is the area above us. But we're climbing about the same rate. And you can see some of the neighboring counties that would serve in our, provide towards our retail shed, if you will. They're mostly going fairly well too. That bodes well for us to the degree that we capture those markets. So there's more coming. The economy is a big topic, and so it's going to be divided into several more presentations, including looking at some of the risks and the land availability, looking at national retail trends, looking at tourism. And so as we look at all these things, we want to look at, are there disrupting technologies, economic accelerators and decelerators? So that concludes the presentation with this high-level overview, and I'm going to turn it back to Melissa at this time.
Thanks, Dave. That was great presentation. And at this point, we have a open question and answer period. So if you have any questions, there are a couple ways to do it. Just raise your hand and or just go ahead and unmute, and we can follow up and answer your question. If you prefer to be offline, we can stop the recording and answer your questions offline. And then Jordan has also indicated in the chat, there's a link to the webinar evaluation, if you wouldn't mind going online and just giving us your feedback in terms of information that you were able to gather from that. So are there any questions from anybody? Okay, well, I don't think we have any questions then. And Jordan, do you want to go ahead and stop recording?